Chair Smith,
Yes. Here.
Mr. Roche,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Chairman Kent,
Here.
and let the record show that Town Manager Greg Dunham, Staff Attorney Trey Nazaro, and myself are also present. And absent today is the two alternates, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Jones, and Town Attorney Randall.
Thank you very much for that. The minutes of the March 22nd meeting were in the package. Are there any revisions or items that aren't consistent with the meeting? Okay. We hear a motion for approval.
I'd like to make a motion that the minutes as presented for the meeting of Thursday, March 22nd are approved.
Second.
Thank you. Rita?
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roche,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Chairman Kent.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any additions, withdrawals, referrals, or arrangement of the agenda for today?
We have none.
We're not. Thank you, Rita. Okay. Now this is where it gets difficult. First of all, announcements and meeting dates. May is very thin. Are we going to have quorum for May? Mr. Smith is going to be.
I will be here.
I'm in the UK.
Yes.
So Murphy will be absent, and Mr. Roach will be absent.
I have to double check. I literally might be on a plane overseas on that day. I will get back to you today.
All right, that'll be fine. I believe that Mrs. Jones has already said she will not be present.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So we're gonna be a little thin.
We won't have even 3 people, will we?
And that is a Thursday, like the normal, not Monday.
Yes, that's the normal day.
Okay.
Are you,
I have some time.
okay, all right, got it.
Well, is there something that I know coming up for that meeting that kind of wants to be at that meeting to get in sync with the council meeting the following month? So if we don't have a meeting, it's gonna push it back even further, right?
Okay, I guess, well, on that item, unfortunately, we're gonna have to defer. How do we handle that?
We'll wait and see if it doesn't work out.
Okay, all right, okay.
We might have to change the meeting date.
Yeah.
Okay. June 28th,
Yes.
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 No.
No? So we have a quorum for June. And then July, that's the one. Auburn, New Zealand, July. Hopefully we'll get, so we're at 2. And we need to have 3.
Well, we may have to twist the alternate's arms.
Okay.
They may have to fly back or something.
All right,
That's what I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there we go, okay.
Keep waiting for that check, you know, to
The
reimburse.
reimbursement check? I wouldn't hold your
You
breath.
didn't get that yet?
It's the famous.
It's in the bank.
It's in the
Yeah,
it's the
of
famous
course.
one.
Okay,
Okay.
well, that gets us through August, and Rita's gonna breathe a sigh of relief in August. So, okay, public hearing portion of the agenda. Is there any ex parte communication regarding any of the applications?
No.
Anything in general? No, okay, good. Thank you. Rita, if you could minister oaths to all those who plan to speak during the, or even think they might say something, yes.
Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. On to the meeting applications for development approval. And we're going to open with an application submitted by Freddie, Polania, Randallstock Architect, and agents for Scott and Vita Galloway, owners of a property located at 1535 North Ocean Boulevard, Gulfstream, Florida, legally described as a portion of the north 100 feet of the south 168 feet of government lot 1 of section 10, township 46 south, range 43 east, in Palm Beach County, Florida, lying east of the easterly right-of-way line of the Ocean Boulevard. The application is for a level 2 architectural site review, plan review to permit the construction of a 795 square foot guest suite above the existing streetcar garage. It is attached to an existing 2-story Gulfstream Bermuda style single family dwelling and extensive re-landscaping of the property. And if you could just state your name and
Yes.
for the record.
Yes, my name is Freddie Polani. I'm with Renovations Architects, representing Vieta and Scott Galloway.
Okay,
This
sorry,
is-
could you move the lectern just
Oh,
so we have everything on mic, and if you need to walk around, you can just grab my.
Yeah,
that's
that'll
fine.
come off, you can take it with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just stand up here. That's okay.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Freddie Polani. I'm with Renovations Architects, representing Vieta and Scott Galloway for 1535 North Ocean. And what we're proposing is a guest suite addition of 795 square feet over the existing garage. And we're going to be doing some additional landscaping as presented here by Mr. Bodker, landscape architect. And we'd like your recommendation for approval based on our presentation here. So, Mr. Bodker, would you like to come up and explain a little bit? Let's start with the landscape and explain a little bit about what we're proposing.
Good morning. Good morning. At this time, we are only working on this portion of the site from the motor court area right in front of the garage to the existing seawall that's back in here. We're not doing the front portion yet. Hopefully that's to come. The hardscape renovations that we're doing include a reconfiguration of this driveway at this point right here. And we're proposing for that either pavers for the entire motor court area. So it will be, regardless of what shape it'll be this light gray material. Want to pass it around, or?
No, thanks, thank you.
I'm going.
Okay. Or the driveway could be just a border of a gray paver material like that. And then we would retain the gravel that exists in here and currently exists in there. So we haven't decided exactly yet where we're going with that. The motor court will be framed with either Sylvester date palms or with foxtail palms, and so that's what's represented in here on either side. And then on the axis going north and south, along the driveway, we're proposing a lignum vitae tree, a flowering tree that would be here and also here. Currently, there's an 8-foot-high masonry wall that runs along, it's actually on the neighbor's property to the north, and so it runs the entire length of the property along here. And so we're proposing a new 8-foot-high masonry wall along the south property line. So right now we're proposing it from here to about right into here as part of this part of the project. And in front of the masonry walls on the inside, we're proposing a clusia hedge and then tear down with dwarf podocarpus. So that's what will occur in front of the wall on the inside here and here in these locations. Also, as part of the hardscape renovations to this house, we're proposing a new walkway. And so there's parking right in here, a little walkway that'll go in here, walkway that leads you to the front door, and then there's this little courtyard area here. And for the paving in there, we are proposing a tile that looks like this. And it'll have a border of limestone, so it'll be kind of a cream colored material that'll go around the border of that. Within this courtyard that takes you up to the front door, we have square cutouts, and so that's where these Sylvester palms or foxtail palms will go in this location. One other thing in the front, opposite the front door, so when you look out the front door here through this line of date palms, foxtail palms, you'll see across here that we're proposing a little fountain right in this area. So when you look back this way, that fountain will be there.
Oh, the fountain, sorry.
I don't see it on the.
Yeah,
I don't
it's,
see that on here.
Oh, I see it, it's right here.
What
It's
page
right
are you on?
Oh.
It's a little square fountain.
Oh, a wall mount, okay.
No, no.
That's-
No. Oh, thank you, you're on.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. And then the wall fountain. Okay, so within the courtyard area here, there's French doors here from the dining area. So when you look through the French doors, there's a little wall fountain proposed right there in the courtyard that you will see. As you'll hear in a few minutes, the renovation to the architecture includes, I think, an apartment. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, I guess.
The guest suite, a little better name for it. Guest suite over the garage. And so there'll be a stairwell that goes up here, and so we have a wall right in this location here. So we're proposing to espalier bougainvillea on that wall.
On the south wall,
Yeah, it'll be on the south wall of the
stairs.
stairs right there. Additionally, there's bougainvillea we're proposing to espalier to walls, flanking the fountain, the little wall fountain in here, flanking the French doors that lead into that dining room. And then on this side of the house, of the front door, there's a blank wall there. So again, we espalier bougainvillea there. Along the north side of the house, we're proposing some areca palms in this location. And then next to them, there's existing sea grape trees that go up to about 20-foot height. And then from that point on, we'll propose 8-foot-high sea grape hedge with 20-foot coconut palms over them. So the intent is that as those sea grape hedges grow, the coconut palms grow, and we provide continuous screening to the neighbors to the north. And that's indicated on these elevations that I have here. So here's the front yard right here. You're seeing the foxtail palms or the date palms here, the areca palms right in here, existing sea grapes there, proposed sea grapes that you'll see above the top of the wall from the neighbor's property, and then coconut palms in here. There's existing coconut palms that we'll leave in place along that side property line, and so those are the taller ones that you see. Basically, the same scenario will happen on the south side of the property. Here's our new 8-foot-high wall right here. And looking from the south, you'll see either the foxtail palms or the date palms in here. Beyond that, you can see a little bit of the garage with the guest house over it. Then you get to the areca palm section, and then you get back into the sea grapes with the coconut palms over them.
Dave, did you say that that south wall is on the neighbour's land?
The north wall.
The north wall?
The north wall is on the neighbor's property.
Okay, and you're going to replace it?
No.
Oh, it's the south one, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's right against our north property line, and it goes the entire length of the property. So what we're proposing is to put an 8-foot-high wall on the south portion. And eventually, I think we'll come back in here and do the entire length of the south property line within their property. But right now, we're only working up to this limit of work. A couple of hardscape items. In the backyard, there's currently a covered area in the back of the house off the living room and an office that's here. We want to extend that terrace about 18 feet to the east. And that terrace will be paved with the same type of material that we used in the front except the reverse. And that will have limestone for the majority of the surface with this colored tile as the border. So kind of just a reverse from the entrance courtyard. Additionally, hardscape renovations, we want to expand this little terrace that's off of the family room, and the kitchen's a little bit further back in the house, by approximately 9 feet to the east. The swimming pool is existing. We want to do a renovation to that and add this rectangular area that you see here, and that'll be a shallow area. And finally, we're proposing a two-tiered retaining wall system. There's an existing bulkhead right along here, and so we want this two-tiered retaining wall so we can level out the backyard. Right now it slopes off. The Galloways have children, so we want to make more of a yard area there for them. We did the same thing on a residence, happens to be friends of the Galloways. I don't know if you recall the Zarkadoulis residence, which was at 1357 North Ocean. We did a very similar thing, and so we're looking for your approval on that so we can then go to DEP for approval. DEP usually wants your sign off, and then we proceed to them. Anyway, that's it for me. Any questions you may have?
Any feedback from neighbors?
None at all.
No, it's all.
What do you propose to plant between the existing seawall and the tiered seawall?
Low sea grapes.
More secret.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be native material, salt tolerant, obviously. So more sea grapes you can see in here, but there is some yellow in here, so that's beach sunflower right there. The Galloways don't want anything tall. They like that expansive ocean view. Who can blame them? It's beautiful. So yeah, we're keeping it low.
What materials are coming? Are there any plant materials that are coming out besides minor? Are there any large plants that are coming out?
There's some sea grapes in the backyard. When we level the yard, they'll have to come out when we build the wall. On the south side especially, there's, Green Island ground cover gets about 18 inches typically. Over on the south side, the stuff is probably 8 foot high. It's just kind of a random mess that's been kind of let go. So we're going to clean that up.
And nothing all the way down the sides of the property line?
We're leaving the good stuff, which is these sea grapes that are right in here.
Yep.
Most of it is, there's a few random existing trees that we'll leave in there if they're beneficial to screening the neighbors and us from the neighbors. So, one thing I didn't mention was that right now the pool equipment's in the backyard right here. We want to relocate it in here. There happens to be a little niche in the house right there, and that's where the air conditioners fit. So keeping the pool equipment out of the setback, we're actually going to put those air conditioners on a platform and put the pool equipment underneath them. But right now, this pool equipment is sitting out in the backyard, just up in the way of the view.
In our plan, we had a lot of we have these drawings of actually the west part of the property. Why were those included?
Just to kind of show you what's going on there. Yeah. In case you had a question about was it sufficient to do what you may want it to do in the front, looking from A1A, so you can see what's happening there. And that area will be addressed, I think, in the future. But right now, I mean, it's as you can see, it's older sculpted shrubs and so forth that have been there forever. But it does give you good separation protection from A1A.
Okay. Good. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buckner. I wanted to start off with the landscaping so we get a foundation and work our way up to the architecture, so thank you. So what we're proposing for this renovation, as you can see, is we're going to be building a guest suite on top of the garage, and that will consist of 2 suites and 2 bathrooms. And we have kept the architecture to be modified from a Bermuda, which it currently is with a flat roof tile. And what we're proposing is a barrel roof tile to give it more of a Mediterranean feel. A lot of the homes adjacent to it already contain the barrel tile, so we feel that it's in compliance with the surrounding architecture, so to speak. And let me flip over to a few things here. Go to the cover limit. Actually, let's Okay, this will give you a descriptive view of what we're proposing. Like I said, we're doing a guest suite above the garage at the front, and what we're going to propose as well is we're going to be doing some interior renovation to the house, and so what we did is a new window and door study on the rear. Now what we've actually done is taking our percentage of glass down to 44%. And so we're actually reducing the amount of glass, but giving it a much nicer aesthetic.
Do you know what it was prior?
It was, I believe it was like 49, somewhere in that route. But the windows were just mismatched and there was just a lot of inconsistency. So we cleaned up the architecture and we've given it a much nicer appeal. The landscaping, or the hardscaping as I have shown here, is just diagrammatic. The hardscaping is going to be for Mr. Bach's plans. But essentially what we want to create is some nice accent trellis features on the rear elevation, both coming out of the great room here and also above the master terrace, which I'll show you here in this elevation. Actually, I'll show you in the plan next. So as you can see here, at the master bedroom, we are proposing a small trellis over here. I'm going to go over to this side so you can see the guest suite above the garage. We have a set of stairs leading up, and you've got two guest suites. And this is actually below the what's the word?
Discouraged.
The discouraged high beam height. So we've kept it at 20'10". And it actually fits the architecture perfectly. It screens the house just enough to complement the style that we're proposing. It includes a terrace and a nice, little lounge coffee bar for whoever stays out there. I'm going to go down to the first floor. We've replaced all the glass here, replaced the glass here, and replaced the glass here. This is a new trellis feature that is going to be right over the outdoor living area. It's going to be open, and what it's going to do is going to create just a little bit of shade for the glass, and also give it a little bit more of an appeal leading out to the pool and surrounding landscape. And other than that, we're just going to be doing some cosmetic renovations to the interior.
So are these windows across the back now wood? They're like are they anodized aluminum with a brown? You're taking all of the windows, all the
Yes.
glass off the back?
Yes, well, we're taking all the glass off of the back, but we are going to be matching the color of the profile. And what we're proposing is probably like a classical line from La Finestra, or maybe an SIW window, which is going to be painted to match the existing color profile. So that way you're not going to see any difference in profile width and also in color. And do our best to match it.
To match the existing.
Yes, because there's a lot of the windows and doors on the residence are still in good condition, so it made no sense to change it all. So what we're gonna do is enhance actually a few of the areas, but maintain the architecture.
Can you go over very importantly, the roof material? Did you bring a sample of the
You
roof
know,
material?
I did, and I came in, but I parked my car right here. We're just doing a terracotta roof tile.
And is it a barrel,
It's a
true
barrel
tile? Roof?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, it's a barrel tile.
And then the color scheme for the house, can you just go through the
Yes,
color
and
scheme?
actually I have a colored rendering here. Okay, so we've got the terracotta roof tile. We're proposing a cream white type of appeal. We've also proposed some awning structures that would screen and accent, the terraces and some of the window profiles. We're going to be replacing the garage doors and give it a nice wood clad, just to keep the basic theme of the warmth of the architecture. And at the same time, that same wood tone will carry it across our trellis features, as shown here in the rendering. And also all the window and door profiles as well, to maintain the same color.
And the arches that exist on the back, those would all be flattened out?
Yeah, all the arches, and if you could take a look at the rear elevation, all the arches that existed on the property, we're actually gonna be squaring all of them off to give it a nice cleaner approach. We felt that the arches were just too repetitive, and it just didn't really fit the theme, so we're squaring everything off. The only arch that we did keep was at the entrance. We felt it just gave it a nice warmth entrance. And I think it's actually a huge improvement to the existing residence.
And by removing the arches, will you be adding to fill in the arches?
No,
or
we're
removing
We're
material?
removing, we're just gonna be
Removing
squaring them off,
Okay.
correct, yes. We're not changing any of the beam heights or anything like that, we're just changing the basic profile.
Okay. And then the trellises, can you describe the materials that are going to use
Yeah,
and
we're
the
gonna
color
be-
for the trellis?
Yes, we're gonna match the trellis color to the wood theme that we have on the house, but we're gonna propose a hardy boy type of material, which is a PVC type of column structure, and then we're gonna be accenting that with its rafters. Are you familiar with the Hardy Boy products? Yeah, so it's weather resistant, and the profiles, they're customizable, and we're gonna propose that on the outdoor living space and also over the terrace at the master bedroom. Any questions?
Comments from staff? Well, it certainly seems to be, was it modernization of what's there? We do appreciate certainly keeping the second story addition within the preferred range of the code. And, any other comments before we make a motion? Okay. Thank you.
In that case, I would like to make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed construction of a 795 square foot guest suite above the existing 3-car garage that is attached to an existing 2-story Gulfstream Bermuda style single-family dwelling and extensive re-landscaping of the property with the following condition. Any minor modifications in the approved landscaping should be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications should be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of landscaping.
Thank you very much.
Second that.
Second. Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith?
Yes,
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Kent?
Aye. Thank you very much, Rita. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Freddie, would you sign this for me, please?
B, special exception number 1, to extend a non-conforming wall. C, special exception number 2, the addition, permit an additional 240 square feet covered unenclosed floor area that exceeds the maximum FAR of 5,535 square feet. Item D is a level 3 architectural site plan review permit additions of 1,529 square feet to the first floor. The addition of a second story consisting of 1,748 square feet and a 328 square foot one-car garage to an existing single-story Gulfstream Bermuda style single-family dwelling. House, floor is yours.
Good morning. My name is Carlos Benares. I'm with Randall South Architects. Presenting to you Thomas Residence Renovation Addition project. The existing home consists of an approximate 2,300 square feet home. No existing garage, as you guys have seen. The existing structure is consisting of a 3-bedroom home. Obviously, our clients, our family's growing, and they're needing for the space. So they've decided to renovate the home and add a 2-story addition to their house. The addition obviously is being kept within the FAR, that require FAR. Currently, we're proposing to be about 4,700 square feet under air. Is what we're proposing to add two bedrooms upstairs and the master as well. One of the bedrooms is going to be converted into the garage that they currently don't have. The existing structure is within the setback, and in order for us to be able to achieve the single car garage for them, we're just having to extend a few feet of that already wall that is non-conforming. The addition towards the back, is still on the north side, has been stepped back in order to comply with the setback requirements. Everything on the first floor is pretty much being added towards the back, being limited to the pool that they currently have. That they're not going to get rid of. They're going to just upgrade it. The structure is basically going towards the back and limit at that point. Second floor, there is a new code that just came from Gulfstream that we are also complying with, to where the second floor has to be stepped back further in than the first floor. We've gone through that calculation and came up with about 10 foot 9, if I'm not mistaken, on how much we have to come back in. We've also done that. So second floor has been designed centrally located, obviously because of the stepping back on the second floor. And also it's being developed towards the back of the house. So the majority of the house itself, the second floor, is towards the back, so it's not a dominant presence, a dominant structure at the very front. Which, you know, it helps with the architecture because their focal point is towards the backyard anyhow. So that's sort of where their bedrooms are going to be facing. The master, small terrace on the second floor as well, that is also facing the rear of the house. Currently, the landscape and the landscape architect is also here to talk about that as well. Landscape right now is pretty lush. We're going to add into that, and you know, we'll get him to talk about that a little bit more later on. So basically the special exception that we're asking for is for the garage, in order for that single car garage to work. We had looked at many different options on how to add a second garage, but because we're so tight on that side, it was not properly working. So we're asking for that special exception. We're also asking for the special exception for the open outdoor living area, which we've included, which is pretty great, and they love that. They do like that outdoor living area as well. So in order for us to be able to achieve that, we're asking for about 240, I believe, is what we're asking for. Second floor, it's been kept within the height limitations. And also they wanted to keep the style of the architecture and enhance it even more so. So we've included coins throughout, which is very classical way of this type of architecture. We've also included a front covered entry, which they did not currently have, which is, also enhances the entry for them. And before I forget, we did a colored rendering for them, and I was not able to present it prior to this meeting. If I could present that to you guys today. This is the color scheme that they would like to present to the board. So as you can see, the color that we're proposing is pretty much in keep with what you see in the core Gulfstream. It's a light tone pink color. The very exact color still needs to be determined once the house goes up. We'll submit that specific color, but this is the color scope that we're going to be proposing. Shutters are all going to be white. Trim is going to be white. We're going to keep the flat white tile roof that they currently have. We're going to, if it needs to be replaced, if it has to be repaired, we'll go ahead and do that. But we're going to keep that style that they currently already have. And I think the stucco color that we're introducing is light, but it still gives you a rich contrast between the white and the stucco itself. And I believe it does fit within the neighbors. I mean, we've seen similar colors within the core, so that's what we want to try to stay with. There were also some notes that Mr. and Mrs. Thomas wanted me to also cover, that we're keeping, we're maximizing the landscape requirement. Requirement is I believe is 40%. We're proposing 53%. They're also wanting me to talk about that. That this is a renovation, and unlike other homes, a lot of homes are being proposed to be torn down, and they want to try to maintain this 1953 home as much as possible, obviously accommodating their needs to add the square footage. There, a few homes is still within the street and behind them that are 2 stories. They appear to be a little bit more massive than theirs are. But so, they wanted me to point that out, that we are in keep with that ratio that the Gulfstream requires. We are well below 50% of the first floor. We are meeting the criteria of the stepping back of the second floor. So all of that, keeping all of that in mind, we've been able to achieve a beautiful piece of architecture, trying to maintain as much of the existing home as possible. I don't know whether you want to go through architectural questions or maybe landscape. Could also talk.
Well, I had one question. I
Yes,
saw
sir.
that you had changed the roof height from 24.6 to 23.6. And which is still, 6 inches above what is really highly recommended.
No, not this project. Not this project, no.
Am I reading the wrong one here?
Yeah, I believe it is. The tie beam that we are proposing, obviously, is the current home is a
Oh,
low,
okay.
low
You're right.
ceiling.
Yeah,
So proportionally, we are trying to maximize the second floor. But there's a proportion that we have to, as our architects, have to study. So we do have it at 21 is what we're proposing for the second floor.
So that was an issue. I would have thought it would have been with an 8-foot first, and then you essentially have another 13 to get to 21. That height proportion was something you had to evaluate?
Yeah, we did, and obviously, the homes that we do, the quality of homes that we always do is all our common spaces wouldn't have a high ceiling, but because we were able to do the family living room towards the back, that sort of fell underneath the second floor, so we were able to achieve a little bit of height there. Not quite, what we typically see, but, it's still trying to keep the proportions of the existing home, and so it doesn't look out of proportion. We've been able to add the second floor. And the second floor is a 9-foot ceiling. Obviously, the two pods on the first floor, they're bedrooms, they're going to have an 8-foot ceiling. But they're bedrooms, they're secondary bedrooms. One perhaps is an office. And the new bedrooms, which are upstairs, are going to be able to have a 9-foot ceiling, which is a little bit better, I think, than 8 feet. And proportion still works perfectly, I think.
Where is the non-conforming wall that you're asking for an exception from? Right by the garage, did you say?
Yeah, if you take a look at the proposed garage,
Yeah.
the proposed garage shows a dark wall with a window. That dark wall is the wall that we're adding. Basically, it's just probably about 6-7 feet of that north wall that encroaches into the setback. It doesn't encroach into the front setback, it just encroaches into the north side setback. That's the only wall that, the remaining part of the garage, which is probably about 12-15 feet, that's already existing wall. And it's currently a bedroom there, which, it probably some time ago, previous owners converted that, it was probably a garage before that was converted into a bedroom. So we're basically just bringing it forward.
Second question, I think I see it now on the picture here, but the deck off of the master bedroom is not going, it's gonna have a safety rail, but no covering.
No covering, no, we are at our maximum FAR, we're not able to cover that.
Has there been any feedback from any of the neighbours?
No.
No?
The neighbor, on one side, took a look at the early presentation of the plan.
Okay.
With no comment.
With their comment.
code 2, I just want to make sure I understand the second floor setback issue. It says that it's required second floor setback of 10.9, but proposed 12 and change?
That is correct. It's just where the wall happens to be structurally,
So it looks like you're 2 feet inside of where
Inside.
it could.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
so that's it. All
That
right.
is correct.
I just want to make sure I got that.
Yep.
Okay.
One thing, and this is independent from this particular project, but, you know, when we did that setback on the second floor,
Yeah.
it's the way that the code reads now, and that may be a discussion for later on. The way that the code reads, it sort of pushes our clients to exceed the first floor as much as possible in order to accommodate a second floor, because it doesn't read that it's a setback from the setback. It makes it from the first floor. So in order for us to make this work, we actually had to extend our family room all the way to the south property in order to get that achieved, which, you know, architecturally, it doesn't make sense, but, I mean, we were able to work with that, so just pointing it out.
Okay.
Further questions? Before we make the motion, can we just go back to the point that the final colour is going to be decided subsequently?
It's going to be very close to this, but because, you know, with the printing and.
No, that's fine, it was just a case of, obviously on the recommendation from staff, that we make it also part of the motion, that the final colour has to come back to be approved.
The exact color.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, just, you know, this is the color that we're going to be, whether it's, you know, a little pigment darker or lighter, it's just, I want our
Yeah.
owners to.
No, that's fine, that's understandable. Can that be decided by staff? It doesn't have to come back.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any comments from staff about the actual, the building part of the process? Okay.
Mark?
Landscaping, let's see.
Good morning, Mark Jacobson, landscape architect with Design Studio. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit the site or seen the site, but it is very lushly landscaped. And as you can see around the perimeter, we are maintaining as much landscaping as we can to about this point, knowing that during construction, a lot of the stuff on the side will be damaged, and we're replacing that with like kind material. They've got an extremely, a lot of tall palms, multi-level plant material, very tall existing canopy trees in the back that sort of creates this whole oasis of landscaping. In fact, there are, you know, pathways and seating areas tucked all underneath these trees. The property line on the south, we're going to maintain as is. There won't be any reason, with the exception of this area and here, to add additional material. As you can see, there is a very large canopy tree in the front. We'll be supplementing some of the existing plant material on either side of the new entrance. But other than that, the landscaping is going to stay intact with what's existing. We're merely supplementing and adding tropical understory material that will survive in the existing shaded conditions.
One question is, it follows the master bedroom with that deck outside on the south side. you know, they could be looking right into Mrs. Mayer as the next door neighbor, I'm not sure. No, south side, middle, where you said.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, right there, yes.
Yeah, then there's actually all glass, it looks like, on the south side. Are those, those trees gonna be tall enough so that they're not looking down into their neighbors?
I believe,
It's just, it would be protecting that upstairs deck off the master bedroom.
yeah, those trees, not sure, I don't have my tree disposition plan with me.
This is the last page, LP2, sorry, second to the last page.
Yeah, they are, yeah, you're looking in this area right here.
You've got a new darker green, it looks like
Sure.
a fantail
Well,
palm or something.
we're trying to fill in with like kind material, there's travelers, palms, bird of paradises, and yes, we will make sure that,
You just wanna make it tall, you can see the 4 panels on there on the master
Right.
bedroom there. I think you'd wanna get something higher and denser there to cover that if
Sure.
you could. For both sides.
Absolutely.
For the owners and the neighbors.
absolutely. And again, it all depends on how much material is damaged. You may end up adding quite a bit more in certain areas.
Also, if I may interrupt, their yard, the neighbor to the south's yard is on the south end of their property. So their side is very lush as well. I have an aerial picture here that I'm looking at. I'm not sure whether you guys would like to see that as well. But this is the neighbor to the south. And you could see how lush that is currently. Their yard and their living outdoor space is geared more towards the south and the rear as well. You know, obviously our client wants their privacy as well. So we'll do whatever it takes for them to have that privacy. If in case they want to hang out there, they don't want anybody looking at them either. But, you know, I think that maybe just adding, I don't know, a tree or so.
Yes, we'll add some staggered palms in there as needed to create that privacy.
I think that's real important,
Yeah, absolutely.
because that may be the configuration of that home currently, but,
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
the house to the south is likely to go through something similar to this someday also, and so
Yeah.
you don't want the 2 master bedrooms staring.
Staring at each other,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
There's just one thing that bothers me about the plan, right? This extension, well, the family room, and which forms the porch off the master bedroom, it's almost like a block, like it's almost like a shoot, like a cell block, just sort of how it extends off the house. Now, I know you're working within the guidelines of the manual, but I just wanted to point out that, you know, normally these side walls just have a roof that slopes back from the top. This has the additional columns that support the handrail, and it's just a very blocky feature. I mean, obviously it's set back from the front of the property. It's going to be well screened, but certainly it's not a very attractive. I mean, it has the 2 windows on the side that face to the south, but it's a very, I don't know, unattractive feature. Just it's a large empty wall with no architectural detail on it whatsoever, and I'm just obviously it's going to be set back further, but I'm just that is.
Still, it's the same thing I've been asking about too, so it's the
It's
building
it's
underneath
the first
that,
floor.
it's that same deck underneath
Yeah.
the deck off the master.
On the master, and it's a very, I mean, it's almost like a flat roof. I mean, it's not a roof because it's a balcony and a terrace, but it almost has that effect of being a quote unquote, in other words, without the railing, it would just be a flat roof. And the thing is that those the columns that support the this has the wall plus, you know, these posts extending up, which is, it's just going to be a very, you know, the house without a house next door, you know, by itself like this, the way it's shown in the elevation, but it's just a very uncomfortable feature, though, in my opinion.
Well, if I may also talk about this, the top of it is at 11 feet. And the code does dictate how much wall, linear wall you could have without an architectural feature. I mean, the one thing that it does have windows on the other side, just like you mentioned, which is where the focal point of the house is, you know, towards the back of the house. And because it's so far back, you know, we didn't think that, you know, it's really something that you're going to add interest. It's probably going to have some landscape there anyhow, you know, at that point. You know, the only thing that I could say that if it helps, even though it's not going to be really viewed by anywhere, is just having the coins on that corner as well. I just, you know,
With a window?
well, you know, the same thing is the way that the seating is gearing towards the back. You know, putting a window doesn't really make sense. Didn't make sense to us. There, I mean, we could explore putting a window there. I don't know if it, you know, you know, when I looked at it, it wasn't a lot of wall compared to everything else. You're absolutely right, because we do have a lot of detail throughout the front, and you know, and all of a sudden you get this wall that doesn't have as much detail as everything else, as, you know, the coins. But because it's just one corner, I thought, you know, it's not worth adding much more to it. But like I said, you know, we could definitely add the coins into it. That would definitely complement it. But I don't know whether that's really necessary, something for us to do. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, take suggestions from.
It's 11 feet.
It's 11 foot high.
How wide is it?
The length is only, I want to say, is probably, it's only 9 feet. 9 foot wide. It's
100 square feet of just.
Correct. That's right. That is correct. But like I said, just because you know, it is a two-dimensional drawing, and it shows like it's right there, but technically it's about 30 feet back from that bedroom corner. So it's pretty far back. Not only that, but we do have a fence there currently, which you're not going to see, you know, 4 or 5 feet of it. You're not going to see it from the street, even if it's not landscaped. So, I mean, you know, again, I would take your suggestions.
Well, actually, from the rear setback, it has the same look here from this side. It's not quite as much, but it just kind of sticks out there, which is, it's almost the posts that hold the guardrails that make it more visible than anything else. Maybe great landscaping in front of it would do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, just like you mentioned, there's other areas that have walls that are, you know, plain. And I don't think any of the walls exceed the maximum without interrupted with an architectural feature. It's just the amount of detail that the front has, that makes that wall appear to be plain. But, you know, again.
And massive.
I'm sorry?
It's a massive structure, that block that extends up. It's more than the volume that is adding to the house. That I take, I mean, if everybody else is okay with it, it's just.
To take you up on the coins, when you look at it, every external edge, for the want of a better way of looking at the plane, does have a
coins do soften, no doubt.
Yeah.
I would agree 100% with that.
Yeah,
Well,
because it's already, you've got coins on every, if you like, edge of the elevation we're looking at here.
now we do have an option as well, you know, just like we started talking about, maybe introducing, you know, nicer landscape there, you know, whether we wanna do, some sort of vines on that wall as well. We do have a door that leads out to that particular side, creating a deck in there, maybe something, more of a garden feel, than an architectural, element in there. You know, creating a little patio. I mean, we do have a current deck at that point there. And, you know, that may be something that we could also suggest to our client, you know, having some vines in there, making it more garden feel. Just because it's, you know, like I said, it's so far back that, you know, it lends itself for many different options.
One more item that one alternative might be, instead of having the corners be stucco and sort of these larger posts that are, I mean, roughly 16 inches square, the corner post, is have aluminum, you know, white aluminum. You can just continue the rail, in other words, do the rail corners.
Yeah, you know, to me, it takes away a little bit from the architecture, I feel.
Well, on the front, if it was a front or a rear porch, certainly, but the problem is the massiveness of that structure on the
We
side
could
of
do
the
that.
property.
We could do that.
I mean,
That's
it's-
fine.
I mean, I don't.
I would be okay with that. Makes it more transparent up on the top.
Yeah, it doesn't draw attention to the second.
I would be okay with that as well. We
So
could,
just
we
like
could
4 by
change that.
4 aluminum.
And you know what, it sort of, complements the front balcony as well, you know, with the, just the newel post being the same material as the railing itself. It makes it more transparent, you know, you are reading that as part of the wall, currently. So, yeah, I think that would help as well, make that, mass feel smaller. Okay?
And the only other thing that I would mention is just, it's interesting, is the centrally located chimney, which is an extension of the existing
Correct.
fireplace, and it is set back from the front. The cap will be done exactly as proposed, which is very attractive, I think.
Correct.
It's nicely done.
Correct.
It's nice.
It's,
But we can't have, I mean, I think that the one thing we have to really, no metal caps, if it's done just like this, what if there's just gonna be a white vent at the top?
it's just going to be on white
Stucco.
clay. Mhm.
White clay.
Mhm.
White clay, okay. Because if there's any metal up there or anything like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Which is
It
against
does, it wouldn't
which is
go anywhere.
prohibited by the
Yeah.
book, but sometimes gets stuck in. And then the last thing, sorry, I meant to go back to that extension, the drainage. Whereas the front, you have, you know, sometimes when rainwater, is there gonna be a way to catch the rainwater so you don't get streaking down that, the
balcony?
porch, in the balcony?
Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
center drains, we'll have center drains. That is something that we typically do in all of our projects. We always have center drains.
Center drain meaning? It'll all
Roof
flow.
roof drains, so it's, you know, sort of like what you see in a shower in the center. At times, we also do, perimeter drains, which is sort of hidden in the tile as well. You know, we've done both options. More traditionally is the center drain, that pipes and let water to daylight.
So the porch will actually slope inward.
That is correct,
Gently.
that is
to
correct.
move the water.
Basically, what you just need to do is just divert the water to a point that is away from the edge,
Okay.
that brings the efflorescent out and stains your stucco. Yeah, that's definitely something that we always do. Good practice.
You know, I do note if you look at LP1, the landscape plan, there does appear to be some vegetation that remains that doesn't really show up in this front elevation rendering that would serve to help out a little with soften. And I don't know what they are. I can't see Somebody's,
Yeah, sometimes,
you see, it didn't make it on the rendering, it's,
sometimes we leave some of it off
Yeah.
just because it would obliterate
you
everything.
won't see the home,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Just following, all this stuff doesn't show up on the,
See,
Yeah, I mean, there are, yes, there's
Yeah.
a lot of vegetation. Yeah. I mean, there's a Corotis palm probably with about 15 trunks there, that's very dense, right up at the front here,
yeah, that remains,
that remains.
okay.
so for the presentation to the town commission, the drawing will include coins. So it'll be different than what we see here. Okay, anybody willing to take on this is, it's half an hour to get through all these.
It's a job, and
If you're sitting comfortably. Okay, first and foremost, I would like to make a motion to recommend approval to clear the area for additions.
Second.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith?
Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Roach? Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman
Aye.
Kent?
Next, I would like to make a motion to recommend approval for a special exception to extend a non-conforming wall.
Second that.
Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Kent?
Aye.
Furthermore, a motion to recommend approval for a special exemption to permit an additional 240 square feet of covered unenclosed floor area that exceeds the maximum FAR of 5,535 square feet.
Second that.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Kent?
Aye.
And finally, a motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan based on the finding of the addition of 1,529 square feet to the first floor, the addition of a second story consisting of 1,748 square feet and a 328 square foot one-car garage to an existing single-story Gulfstream Bermuda-style single-family dwelling meeting the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the owner of the property should prepare and sign a Gulfstream driveway removal agreement. 2. Any minor modifications to the approved landscaping should be submitted to the town manager for review and approval. Any major modifications should be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of landscaping. 3. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the owner of the property shall prepare and record a deed restriction which shall provide that all roof projection areas shall remain unenclosed as per approval of the special exemption for as long as the structure is in existence or exceeds the maximum FAR. Furthermore, 4. Prior to commencing the painting of the property, the final proposed colour scheme must be presented to the town manager for review and approval. And 5. That the aspects of the design which we've recommended to be adjusted, which are the coins and the railings used to surround the master balcony, matching those shown on the front balcony, are included in the submission to the town commission meeting.
Second.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Roach? Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Kent?
Aye. Thank you. Next on the agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, so the item D, items related to the previous approvals is an application submitted by Carlos Linares, Randall Stock Architects, North Ocean Boulevard, P LLC, owners of the property. We've gone through this a number of times, so I won't read everything. But we have an application or reapplication for 2 special exceptions, a North Ocean Boulevard overlay permit, or C, D, level 3 architectural site plan review to permit the construction of the 125 square foot house. And item E is a letter which is included in the package, which is a justification for the use of discouraged items in the proposed design.
Mr. Chairman?
Sorry, Rush, do this, but
Yes,
we have a time limit.
could I ask if the staff could set this agenda item up
Yes.
a few minutes before?
Yeah, oh, yes, please.
Yes. And so, and part of that is I'm going to be handing out some elements that are from, directly from our zoning code with respect to the discouraged items and the zoning district that this application is in. Also, I'd like to refer to the staff report that I think we were just reading from. And kind of skip forward to the recommendations.
Yes.
As you can see, the staff did make a motion to recommend denial of the level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that in order for discouraged items to be approved, an applicant must show and the town must find that the proposed item is not inconsistent with certain goals and so on. So I just wanted to point those out to you and then follow that up with just a comment. As you can see, what I've handed out to you, again, is the framework for discouraged items directly from our code. And you can read that. I'm not going to recite that back to you, but other than to say that the discouraged items are design elements that should not be used in order to maintain the desired character and quality of the zoning district. I just wanted you to have this, so that you can refer to this as we're talking about this agenda item. As a comment from the staff, I would say that it is impossible to use any applicant as an example for what type of evidence is required to meet the burden established by the code of including discouraged items in an application. So any one applicant, every application is different. Discouraged items per the code are not typically found in the town and detract from the existing and desired character of the town and the zoning district. An applicant is required to show that each discouraged item is not inconsistent with certain goals, and those goals depend greatly on the zoning district in which the home appears. And part of what I handed out to you this morning are the goals of this zoning district. So we measure an application against the code, which defines each zoning district, not against the individual homes in the neighborhood. So therefore, as we know, the burden is to justify as to the code and not to the neighboring properties. So the staff believes that the mere conclusory statements without supporting evidence is insufficient to meet the burden outlined in the code for the justification. And that refers to, of course, the justification that was submitted by the applicant. So having said all that, I do want to say that the applicant has made several changes to the original document. And of course, we've been through a couple of iterations at this point in time. And I would say that the discouraged items, which one of them, they have actually reduced the amount of the discouraged item, but it still falls into the discouraged element. So they have made an effort to address all of the items that the board and the commission were concerned about when they went before them to begin with. So,
But the recommendation still.
yes, and I'm talking about
Still
the written,
remains.
the written form here. We don't believe is sufficient enough to. I mean, because it's a conclusion. They basically have 1 and 2 liners, conclusory statements justifying, but no evidence to support their conclusory statements.
That's yes. And this.
I mean, I liken it to a prosecutor who's prosecuting a burglary suspect, and he goes before the jury and says, well, okay, jury, here are my comments. I believe that this gentleman is guilty of this burglary without supplying any evidence to support that. And so that the applicant may have that opportunity during his comments today to justify or to add to that.
To add to the, yes, the previous, the supply justifications for the, yes, sir. So, but I think this is an excellent summary of the framework for the discouraged items, and it's, anyway, very clear cut. I think we should allow the applicant
Absolutely,
to
yes.
make the presentation, but the, anyway, do we provide a copy of,
Yes,
to Mr. Linares?
yes.
I don't think we provided this. You can have
I
mine.
don't have that,
You can
that
have mine.
copy.
Not that one, that he just
Yeah, the
passed
one that I just
out,
handed
but
out.
this other one, yes.
This other one, yes, that's,
But-
yeah. So,
So does the staff statements make sense? or-
they make perfect sense.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Would you like a minute to review that, or did you want to make?
No,
a presentation?
we could definitely start.
Okay.
Okay, so this project has been reviewed prior to and was denied for, I believe, the following items that were discouraged. And correct me if I missed one or two. It was just basically from my notes. I don't have the meeting minutes yet from the previous commission meeting. So this project, as Craig mentioned, it was approved by ARB, went into commissions. Commission basically had said that the discouraged items are a bit too much, and that we should have this discussion with ARB again. So since that commission meeting, we had one particular roof that was one particular first floor roof that was discouraged in the discouraged range. Since then, we've resubmitted and made the first floor roofs comply. So the first floor roofs are no longer in a discouraged item, in a discouraged height. So we were able to fix that, no problem. Second floor roofs was a secondary item that was in a discouraged item prior to this meeting. The measuring point of the previous submittal was 24.6. 22.6 is, I believe, is the preferred range. So from that meeting till today, we submitted and reduced the discouraged item from 24.6 to 23.6. That's the only, I believe, item that we're going to talk about today as being discouraged. The entry feature, it's a little vague, and we could definitely talk about that as well. It talks about that the entry feature is a discouraged item. In fact, it's a single-story roof. The single-story roof is allowed to be within that range. So I think a lot of times entry features are more of like a monumental type of entry feature. That is a solid structure up on top without a roof. Typically, in architectural terms, is what I refer to an entry feature. Over the entry, basically, we just have a single-story roof element that does not exceed the single roof height restriction. But let's come back to that. Second floor type.
Outline that, just,
The,
On the-
the
on the
entry,
plan
the entry, the entry feature, that was called out as a, non-conforming, this is our entry, entry door. And basically what we have done over the entry door is just applied a single-story roof element over that. So as a single-story roof element, height is not above the single-story roof height restriction.
So now that element falls
Well,
within
this
Because you're
roof,
calling it a first story floor.
correct.
I see.
It's a single-story roof, just like like this one is. Obviously, just because that is not over our entry, that is able to be up higher than this one. Now, I could clip that roof, no problem, but to me, it's sort of, it doesn't look correctly with the architecture. And that is why I'm thinking that it shouldn't be as a discouraged, because it's a roof. It's not a heavy structure, so to say, it's not an entablature over the entry, which you've seen quite a bit throughout Gulfstream. You see these beautiful entablature over the entry doors, and that has got a crown up on top, and that is an entry feature structure. But this is a little bit softer because it's a single-story roof for the simple fact that it's over our entry door.
So you're proposing the height of the entry feature to be,
It's about 15
15
feet.
15.2, which is, and the prefers at 14, I'm just, right, or below,
14 as an entry feature, correct.
as an entry feature.
Correct,
You're
correct.
calling this a roof.
It's a first floor roof.
And my response to that is, call it what you may, I mean, I think it is an entry feature, correct? I mean, that's the kind of feature that it is, am I correct?
Well, it's over the entry door. It's not an entry structure, but I wanted to sort of point that out, that it doesn't, as an architectural element, which is what I want to talk to you guys about. As an architectural feature, it's not a over-the-top dominant, which is, I think that's what the code is trying to explain. And this is me trying to understand the code as well. That a entry structure or something very monumental. The roof does fall in over the front door, and like I said, I could easily cut that off and make that into a flat roof. If the ARB is what they prefer to see, but and I'm willing to make that commitment today. I definitely don't want to argue my way in there, but I just want to sort of clarify that it is a single-story roof, and as a single-story roof is allowed to be within the height. I prefer to try to keep it to a peak, but if I have to cut it off, I will definitely do that. I just think it takes away from the monumental feel and how it relates to all the other roofs within that space. So that's really what I wanted to talk about, the entry.
Carlos, is that roof just over the door, or I'm looking at
Yes.
that would be the aerial of the blueprint, and it looks like that feature may be out and off from the front door. It's not.
This is
That's
a
gonna be a
trellis.
trellis?
This is a
Oh,
trellis
okay.
here that we showed it off to the side in order to be able to show you what the house itself looks like.
It's attached to the.
and this dark outline right here, see that dark, or the dotted
that is sort of a shade structure, garden structure that we've added, at the front.
Sure, the staff doesn't want to argue about this. You know,
Oh, yeah.
for,
No, it's
we are
very
just pointing,
interesting.
we're just pointing out to you the
Yes.
entry features, and define this as you may, are addressed in the code and have, you know, they're discouraged, parameters, correct? So that's all.
Yeah. I guess the thing is how we, in other words, interpret, because, well,
Yes, that's an
I was going to
interpretation.
say, you put it there, it's about interpretation. I mean, the first thing is, codicide, if you look at it, it does, you know, there's a symmetry to it,
Mhm.
an architect. It's attached to the house. You know, the usual thing of it's got duck feathers and, you know, it's a duck sort of thing. But, I don't, and then you said, I don't think you've got to be careful with our, you know, I like it, I don't like it, because that's not our choice. But in terms of the whole design, I think Greg, you've raised the point that it's an entry feature, but Carlos, you've also raised the point that one of the reasons that's there is because we don't want 10-foot gargoyles
Correct.
hanging over the edge.
And that's the purpose of.
Yes, when it
the-
says entry feature.
The applicant, you know, he gets his turn to,
Right.
you know, address the.
So if we're
work,
talking about-
and that's what we're doing.
Mhm.
Is it semantics, or,
I think so.
yeah, on this one, on that item,
Right.
I think.
I would say that this is what was the E item? This is 11 feet, that's the garage, I'm sorry. I mean, my interpretation is it's a 12-foot covered porch. It's not an entry, I mean, the thing
I
is.
don't see it as a feature, I
as a
see it
feature.
as a functional part of the,
Yeah, I mean, in other words, it's smaller than the two, than the wings, the blanket. Now, there is a spot, I mean, the thing is that but sometimes people make these gigantic entry
Yeah.
features, and they say, oh, well, that's just a roof over the entry
Yeah.
feature.
but this seems to
This is,
be in
yeah,
keeping with the facade,
is it,
that elevation.
Staff is good with that.
And Trey, just back to
We're good with
the
that.
fact that should we go ahead with just about this item at the moment, it doesn't set a precedent.
That's right.
Right.
That's one of the main things that we're going to come on to.
Now, going to the issue of whether it's an entry feature,
Right.
the code defines an entry feature as the front portion of the structure which indicates and enhances the main entrance to the dwelling. So I believe under that sort of definition that this would probably be an entry feature. Now, that's not to say that you can't approve it based on a showing and everything he's presented to you as far as it maintaining, you know, consistency with the first floor roof heights and rest of the structure. But just to sort of clarify, just because it's a very broad definition, I think that this would be considered an entry feature.
yes,
Okay.
but I think, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's,
Which, in that case, it's discouraged. We keep that the entry feature, if it's just a part of the first floor, the ground floor roof, then it comes within the specifications. That's what your argument is, that it's not an entry, that your argument here, if I understand it correctly, is that it's not a feature to, let's say, decorate and enhance whatever, it's a functional part of the ground floor.
That is correct, and, you know, when we look at codes, we look at how that needs to relate to the architecture, and how that interpretation needs to define the architecture. And to me was, and we've done many homes here in Gulfstream, and we've done that exact entablature, beautiful entablature, you know, profiles and such. And that really is what enhances your entry to the home. In this case, it's a little bit more subtle. You know, the how we wanted to address it is sort of complementing everything else on the first floor roof, and it is within that height as a first floor roof. You know, and you know, like I said, you know, we could go ahead and introduce an entablature here, you know, that is going to fit within that 14 feet. You know, we could definitely do that. But it was not the intent, and that is why I wanted to talk to you guys about that.
Your only option is to lop off the top and make it flat. You can't make this a 14-foot pitch. That won't fit.
No,
It's just
no,
the
you
the
know,
angles.
the door itself is typically, it's a 10-foot door, 10-foot entry door. It's got to, you know, the door itself is
Okay.
the monumental piece in here. It's the uniqueness of that door. So the tie beam is at 12. That leaves you
So
a
you
little bit
only
of a
have
header.
12, okay, to make the triangle.
Well, you know, like I said, we could definitely, you know, either cut it off, we could make, you know, a shallower pitch. But, you know, to me, it doesn't work well with the architecture.
But I'm just trying to find something that maybe allows us to put this, get it out of discouraged, meaning 14 feet, but still give you the idea of doing the triangle, not lopping off the top of the pyramid. Understood? Like, you just told me the only thing you can do is lop it off and make it a flat roof on the top of the pyramid. Right?
Correct, correct.
Are you telling me you can't keep a pyramid and keep it at 14 feet or 14.6, or, you know?
Not in the same material, not in the same type of roof elements that we have for this style architecture. The only other way that to make that
You
work.
know that just intuitively?
Yes.
You know the math, you can't do it at 12 foot. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And
So you're telling me 15.2, the only way to have it pitched, appropriately pitched, full pyramid is 15.2,
correct,
not 15. Okay, because it's that, all right.
correct. That is where the peak.
The only way to solve it is, I hear you, is to lop it off and make a little, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, just.
Correct. That's the way to maintain the roof design or the roof material that we've introduced here, because that's what we're proposing. We're
What's
proposing.
the roof material influence on this? I don't, what is the roof material influence?
It does not. It does not. This is the roof, the type of roof that we propose. You know, we typically, like I said, we've done the entablatures, which is just a flat.
We're not doing that.
You know, it's not what we wanted to see here. We wanted to see just a typical single-story roof lines at the entry, and because of that, you know, we're saying, well, because it's a first floor roof, maybe that is not a as massive, if I could put it that way. You know, it's not being as massive as if it was an entablature, a full 14 feet, because obviously it's got a pitch to it. It sort of goes back. It's a much softer structure, so it's not like a, you know, right at the entry itself. But again, you know, I would take your recommendations and see how you're comfortable.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me for interrupting. I can tell you how this happened. When this was originally submitted by you, Mr. Linares and the staff, then took it into its review. And, you know, we sent this one out to our planning consultant that we do on occasion. And so the staff, you know, relied on the code, and I believe our planning consultant also identified that as an entry feature. So I remember when this came up, actually I think it was in the commission meeting. You know, the entry feature was mentioned. I remember you had a puzzled look on your face. And so then we continued, and you never connected with me to talk about this entry feature. So that's how this happened. So we had identified it as an entry feature, as well as our planning consultant who, you know, knows our codes and reviews our codes. We asked him to review these. But I do remember Mr. Linares had a look on his face when that item came up in front of the town commission.
And honestly, I mean, I don't know if we can make a finding that this does meet, because I think what we're talking about is more vertical surfaces where you have an entablature, and I would say that, I would argue Carlos, is
12.
12 feet. Yep.
Mhm.
And then it barely has a roof covering, so we're well within, I mean, he's 2 feet below the, in other words, we could have an additional 2 feet of massing going up from this. And right now, what we're talking about is, is a reduction, a gigantic reduction in massing. I mean, it's the way that I can see why you have the puzzle. And, yeah, is this an entry fee? I think we could make a finding that this is, that the design is such that it doesn't, I mean, that's why we're
Yeah,
here.
could-
I mean, this could be a much more massive thing. We're talking about lopping off this much of a feature that's 60 feet from the road that nobody's gonna notice, and it's all going to detract from the architecture,
Yeah, that's one of the other.
or 80 feet.
That's
from
an
the road.
excellent point.
It does
Yeah.
detract from it, if we go down there.
Yeah, and whereas I think the applicant's made, by reducing the entry feature to 2 feet, the overall appearance of massing to 2 feet below the 14-foot preferred range, I am 100% on board. I mean, that's the problem with, that's where we sit here as,
Yeah.
as people, is to interpret, to see what's put forth. And it's not gonna impact any applications down the road.
There's no precedent.
This is just, yeah. So I would say that, we could,
I think we can.
if it was, yeah, okay.
So to address that point, we're saying that you had an opportunity to respond to our concerns.
That's right.
And both verbally and through your presentation, we feel that you've addressed it. You've made the argument why it should be included. Okay. So that's number one.
Okay, so moving forward to the second floor tie beam.
Yes.
Second floor tie beam was reduced from 24.6 down to 23.6. That is on the lower end of the discouraged. It is still just one item that we're talking about as a discouraged.
Well, it's
and-
right in the middle, I think, I mean.
Yeah, 25, I believe, is the maximum.
22.6 to
22.6,
24.6.
24.6. Okay, so
All right, I'm
we're in the middle.
Yes.
Now, we talked about that, a discouraged item has to be something that is not going to contradict the neighbor, the neighbors, or the structures within the neighbor lots. I did a little bit of studying, and I'm not saying that this needs to take precedence for our project, but it does complement, and it also is in keep with our neighbors' lots as well. So you do find this type of heights within the oceanfront lots. So I did a little bit of investigation, and actually there's 4 projects that I found on the oceanfront homes that have that tie beam or even a little bit higher. And like I said, by no means I'm trying to say that takes our precedence, but it does work with our neighbors. It does sort of, I don't want to say complement, but it is within those height ranges that our neighbor homes also have.
So that would be the quote-unquote evidence that the town manager was talking about that we haven't seen, but like
Correct.
comps, like this,
Correct.
3,000 North
That's a good
Ocean
analogy.
was at 24 feet, right?
So I made a list of the homes that exist now, that, for example, 3603, which is just north of our next project that we'll talk about. That's just north of that project. That has a tie beam of 24 feet. And, obviously our heights are pretty similar to that as far as the finished floor. That's always dictated by DEP, so that we don't have any issues with those. There's also 3145 North Ocean, which has 2311 plus a tower. And there's also 3211, which has got a tie beam of 2310 currently. So, in order for oceanfront homes to try to mimic and be in keep with one another, we're not higher than those three homes that I just mentioned. There's also the home that was previously seen in here this morning, which is 1535, that also has a tie beam of 22'10". That is also in the discouraged. So we're not asking for us to be much higher than our neighbors' lots. We're actually trying to be within. But our goal is not to make a massive home. Our home is to give our clients the ceiling heights that they're, it calls for this type of home. These type of homes they're oceanfront homes, and we're trying to keep as much ceiling height as possible for them. That's the only reason that we're trying to maximize as much as we can these second floor tie beams. And as I explained before in other meetings, our bedrooms are currently at like 9'6" ceilings for these type of houses.
On the second floor, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we went from about 10 feet or so down to 9'6". So it's still reasonable ceiling, but to just keep on going down on a oceanfront home, to me it's sort of taken away from the architecture, from the grandness of the home itself. So that's sort of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today as well.
Then the last, sorry.
Well, just because something was approved in the past that was in the discouraged area, I don't think that's a validation for something being, giving you a right to even increase on that, and.
Correct, I agree with you.
And, although you say that these other houses are 2311 and 2210 or whatever it is, the fact is you don't see those houses from one another.
Exactly.
So when somebody is coming to buy this house, they're not gonna go out with a tape measure and say, well, hey, the guy next door is at 23.6, and why can't we be 23.8? I mean, that's sort of a vacuous argument as far as I'm concerned.
The only reason that I'm bringing it up is not to say that needs to take a precedence over, for us, and it's not to say that that anybody's going to be measuring, not at all. What I'm just saying is that it does relate to our neighbors, and you do find that in the neighborhood. So it's not something that we're just inventing on our own. It's been done before. So it has been done, and just like you said, it's these homes, and most of the homes, I would never be able to tell driving A1A. Because they're so private. They're so private, and we're proposing for our homes to be very private as well. So we're not deviating from the code. We're just trying to get as much ceiling height as possible for our clients. We are trying to do a home that is going to be valued as such, and also to know that it's been done and it does not impact the neighbors, because it's so, it's so private.
You're right.
It's not, you know, us proposing 23.6 is not going to impact how this house looks.
You're right, and I agree with that point of view. However, it does exceed what the code says. And going into the discouraged area, and as we have had discussions here, the discouraged area is something that we are trying to eliminate.
Correct.
And so if we continue to acquiesce to discouraged areas, then we're really defeating our own purpose here in the community as a whole. And I'm talking about, you know, the entire community.
Right.
I mean, we've seen some houses over in Place du Soleil which have been built, which are very large, but you know, they got approved, and they, you know, for one reason or another, and I think that we're trying to contain
Correct.
what we were doing before, and
I understand.
you know, that's my point.
Right, right. No, that is a valid point.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, just to kind of regroup on this, and I know we've got some people who need to leave here, not to beat the dead horse, but Commissioner Roach is kind of validating what I said in the beginning, that, you know, that we compare, we measure the application against the code and not against the individual homes in the neighborhood. And if we continue to approve people simply based on the reason that, well, everybody else has done it that way, I mean, we're defeating the purpose.
I think,
Really, I mean,
this is,
the goals of each district are what we would recommend to applicants when they come in to refer to.
yeah, and this is, and, you know, this is, you know, your letter, well, I guess it was Mr. Stock who signed the letter. But it's, you know, within the code, the discouraged elements were really designed to allow rehabilitations on existing structures that had existing nonconformities, and it wasn't for new houses. And I mean, it very clearly states that in the manual, and we just can't, unless we can justify these 5 items in a much more thorough way, which I don't think that we can. I can't, personally. We just can't allow the additional massing. And I think that's pretty much what everything says. I think that this, reading this, which was just handed to you, I'm sorry, will give you, is the code as it's written, and it's just, I think our interpretation, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but my interpretation is that it's, that the additional foot elevation of the building is inconsistent with the goals of the town and the design manual. So,
Okay. Yeah, I honestly, I don't know, if you know, I think that we're talking about sort of the same thing in different aspects. You know, I know that you're trying to steer away from these very massive homes, and I understand that. You know, and the reason, and I'm not sure whether I've said it in this approach before, but you know, we are not asking for much more than our neighbors. We're not asking for much more height than where the these homes sit. So we were just asking, basically the bare minimum, we're 12 inches above the discouraged, into the discouraged height. Just in order to try to accommodate these ceiling heights. I sort of felt that that's in keep with the adjoining homes. We're not going to be any more massive than they are. We're going to actually, sort of complement as far as the heights. It's not going to be contradict the neighbors in any way. So that was sort of my point to make, if I may.
I think we're completely on board and certainly respect your desire to meet your client's needs. But that said, there are also single-story houses along the ocean, which, the massing is much less. And the thing is that when something larger goes up, it almost devalues the older properties. And that's exactly what we don't want. We're trying to maintain the consistency of the neighborhood, and by obsoleting the existing residences by building larger residences, that's not in keeping with the town's goal. And so where there are buildings, I mean, there's one very large building that was built in the 1920s. Certainly that exists, but it also is, there are single-story houses along here that this is, so I think that's why we understand exactly where you're coming from, and that there are other houses that are larger, but we have to maintain we have to go by the design manual and the code.
And the issue is, the efforts you've made by taking it down a foot, but it's either in the discouraged, if it was an inch, I know that's taking the point, but that's what we're talking about. It's, and we can see the efforts you've made, but it's still in that zone. It's like, are you alive or dead? They're an absolute term. It's not, I'm half dead and I'm half alive. It's an absolute divide, and that's what this is. Again, we're trying to meet the code and the staff recommendation, and still trying to, maintain a home that is what our client is looking for. I just sort of think that, this type of home definitely adds value because, of the, that's the first thing that anybody looking for these houses as a resale value. People are looking for higher ceilings, and they're accustomed to those type of ceilings in their previous homes. It definitely relates to any other home that is going to be here, because it does have those type of ceilings that they are looking for. So I think it does increase the value as well, to go in and look for a second floor that is 8-foot ceiling versus a 9-foot ceiling. Obviously, it's much more attractive. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's I'm sorry, I think the reading that you're getting here
It's a real tough call.
Yeah.
Because I actually think these ocean lots the big, large homes are perfect for them. These are really special, large lots, and I'm beginning to think maybe 23.6, you might need that, but it happens to be in our discouraged, and we're being instructed, we're trying to work on keeping these things, not ballooning up like this and shrinking. So I'm very sensitive to the ceiling heights, because that is so critical when people walk into a home. And I just don't know. My feeling is that the lots are so big and they're set so far back, nobody's going to go, oh my God, that's a house that's 23.6. If that, can you tell? You won't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's here in our notes, and it's discouraged, and that's what we're struggling with. And I'm really having a difficult time on this one, because I want to, kind of do the right thing to help. But I'm beginning to wonder myself if maybe it can't be done properly unless you're, below 23.6. I don't know that factually. Do you know how much reduction in ceiling height if you went to 22.6?
Oh, it's another
Just
foot.
on each
It's a-
floor,
it's a-
so six, I never
it's
heard of the
another-
first
yeah.
floor. What's
Um,
your first floor ceiling height?
So
I know you
the
said 9.6.
first floor ceiling height is 11.6.
11.
We typically do most of our homes, and we do quite a bit homes.
I know you do, I know you do
We
Naples.
do 12-foot ceilings. It's a very typical for a family room, for a living room, to be.
Right.
And, I could understand maybe, in the core where, you're sort of, smaller lots.
Yes,
and,
more on top of each other.
Exactly. And they're more noticeable, actually,
Of course you are,
the
the setbacks
max,
are so close.
this is so far back, you're an ocean front. The value of the home is there. Having an 8-foot ceiling in a bedroom, on a multi-million-dollar home,
Would not be good.
it's not typical. It's not typical, and you've seen all the houses on the ocean.
But let's say you take 6 inches off, so you do an 11-foot primary first floor. Can a person, when they walk in, tell the difference between 11 and 11.6? I don't know, I don't think so.
Well, the first thing is
Right.
that they
You
ask
think
is what is your ceiling height? They're not gonna be able to tell, and
Yeah.
unless you could just lie to them and say 12 feet. It's 12 feet, they will never know, but, it's.
Well,
That's
you
what
know,
the realtors
Well,
do.
one thing I want to
That's
say.
a good point, if you're not gonna know, why
But,
can't you
you
make
know,
it a little bit less?
The one thing you'll know 8 feet though, you'll know.
No, you'll know 8
You
feet,
know,
sir. No,
correct,
you-
correct.
You'll walk in and go, this house is built in the 80s, or,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
what happened?
Right.
Exactly.
And
Yes,
exactly,
one
so,
thing.
good.
Is we don't legislate, regulate volume, interior volume. And these peaked roofs give you a lot of room to work with, not right at the eave, not right, sorry, at the outer wall.
Right.
But once you get in, all you need to do is go in,
Tray
a few
ceiling.
feet from anything, and you can go up. And, there is, obviously this master bedroom, which is an important room in the house, obviously. It's right up against the exterior wall. But if that, there's no reason you can't have a tray or a,
Which we do,
Which-
we
yes,
do
exactly.
anyway,
So a lot
correct,
of
which
this
we do
stuff
anyway.
is it,
You're gonna do that anyway, so you're
Yeah,
9.6.
you're
You're gonna
do
trade
that
the
anyway,
9.6.
but, obviously, the low point is, even
9 feet
at
six.
8 feet, the low point is
but
still
you're not
8
talking
feet.
8 feet.
We're not talking 8 feet.
We're not talking 8 feet.
Right.
We're currently at 9.6 on your second
Right,
floor.
right, correct.
So you can be at 9, tray,
9.6.
and tray to 10 feet. You can go tray to 11 and 12 feet in all these rooms. And tray ceilings are a regular feature in many houses in Palm Beach where these things are
Yeah.
regulated. Tray ceilings, in other words, there are architectural remediations available to increase the volume of the interior of the house. And that's the thing, it's more work for you. We understand. This is a difficult thing because we're putting ourselves in your feet and saying, in your shoes and saying, I'm trying to maximize this volume for my clients, and we're saying we have to protect the neighborhood. And I think it just puts additional burden on you, but these are high-end $20 million houses where doing interior modifications to increase the field of volume is something that's certainly within the ability of
Yeah,
the-
no,
And I think we have to ask that. Now we have 15 minutes left in this meeting, and we have another application by you too, so I guess I don't think we want to continue this too much further, but I think, that we just don't feel Mr. Stahl's letter justifies the 5 criteria set forth in the code. And that's, and then should we talk about, just so the applicant can
Had to move forward.
come back to the next meeting, and that is the revisions to the elevations, the window placement, that have been made. I noticed in the floor plan, you didn't change your floor plan to keep up with all the window changes and things like that. But but did you want to go over the changes to the elevation, or did you want to wait till you?
Well, the windows we didn't talk about last time, and it was just something internally that we decided to do, just to enhance the architecture. You know, obviously bringing down the tie beam reduced the amount of wall, so the
Reduce the
window
amount of
percentage had to also be impacted by that.
And by the way, that's in our discussions. That's been another thing, is that is reducing the window area, but we feel that I felt that reducing this wall height, bringing the eave height down, and therefore reducing the wall area, also reduces the amount of windows, because we've been discussing whether or not to reduce the percentage of glass, and we felt that by maintaining the preferred range, we wouldn't have to reduce the percentage of glass, because it would be reduced merely by the fact that there's, as you pointed out, there's less wall area.
Yeah, we were under prior to the change, and I believe we were at 42% before the reduction of the wall and reducing the windows that we have already done. It's 43%, so we just went up 1%. We're still within the 50%.
The 50%, yep. Okay. Let's see. The gatehouse, how far should we go along with this project? What would you like us to do? In other words, should we defer? Would you like to go over the gatehouse? Are there any items that you want to get through the process? So that you feel
Those were the two items, I believe, for this project.
Yeah, the E-Pod on the gatehouse is in the preferred range.
Yeah.
So, and basically the reason that the recommendation was to deny was because the two discouraged items, the first one we addressed and went through, and I think
Right.
we've beaten the second one to where it should be.
The only other comment that I would make is just to remind, I don't know what difference this makes, but, this did go before the town commission, and the town commission kicked it back to the ARPB.
Yeah.
And said, basically, I think the comments will come up with a new design after you meet with the staff. Anyway, so I'm not trying to pour fuel on a fire or to put any more pressure on them, but they did kick it back.
That's, so, can we have a motion on?
It's the last one. The motion is to recommend denial of a level 3 on, sorry.
Oh, sorry, should we do for postponement? In other words,
Do you want to, I think, do we defer it and come
do
back?
we defer?
Or
Yes,
do
that's
we-
what I meant, yeah.
Or do we go as per this, and it's still the same thing to come back, but which is our option, the best one to go forward?
Well,
I mean, it's the same result. I'm presuming you still want to construct this.
you may want to.
Correct,
Before
yeah.
the town, at their next meeting, they may find his arguments are strong enough to accept it. I think we would recommend it to the council, though, that they don't.
Approve the first three, deny the,
And we make a recommendation not to approve. So it's,
well, the special exception.
well, and then if Carlos, you have a chance to present to the commission the case that's been made. Yeah.
I thought we were okay on the 15 too, on the, okay, I think we got concluded that.
Yeah.
It's just that the 23.6 we're off by a foot or less. I don't know, we're just, we're turning that one down.
I mean, if I may be able to present this to commission, I mean, I would prefer that.
Okay, all right, good. Then we should make motions on all these. Sorry.
Well, we
Yeah,
have
somebody else have a
guys before. We're having to remake these same motions.
I think so, yeah, to move it ahead, yeah. What do you want to,
Now,
No, okay, what-
he's ready, he's got that movie star voice, go ahead.
With no movie star salary, my checks with the Curtises. From Rita, okay. It's going to get interesting on the last one, so we might need a bit of help. Let's go for the straight I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a special exemption to allow a 220 square foot of covered unenclosed area that exceeds the maximum permitted floor area ratio.
Second. Second. Oh, yes.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Chairman, Vice Chairman Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ruth?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes. I'd
Chairman
furthermore,
Aye.
I'd furthermore like to make a motion to recommend approval of a special exemption to allow the construction of a 488 square foot gatehouse in the beachfront design district.
Second.
Yes.
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 Aye.
That's good.
Next, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval to allow the construction of a 488 square foot gatehouse and an 8 foot high stucco wall within the North Ocean Boulevard corridor.
Second. Yes.
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 I'd like to
Mr. Murphy?
sorry, yes.
And
Sorry,
aye.
putting the last one together. Okay. I'd furthermore like to make a motion that this submission is presented to the next commission meeting, and the understanding that the points we have addressed are brought to the attention of the commission, but that the applicant has a chance to make his case. But also at the meeting, that it's presented that the first point of the discouraged item was felt by the board that it was acceptable for the argument he put forward. However, the case for the second discouraged item, the board couldn't accept as it was still discouraged due to it being still 1 foot over the preferred range. However, it was acknowledged that you had reduced it for the purpose of this meeting.
Second, second that motion.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Kent?
Aye.
You go.
Yes.
I got to go.
You go forward.
Oh, you do, that's right. You have a quorum.
You go to quorum.
Third part, yes.
Sorry.
No, sorry, guys.
We'll just take 1 minute.
Thank you for all you've done. You've really done a wonderful job. We're gonna miss you big time. Sorry, Carlos. Just,
Oh, both of you guys
Wait,
are
Mr.
conflicts, okay, great.
Let's see.
Sorry.
It's just really good.
So you're paying on.
Okay, no, no,
Oh,
no, we're
okay,
here,
okay.
we're locked.
Okay,
Now
yes,
we're ready.
okay, oh,
Enjoy.
We've got some work to do, guys. Okay.
okay, Mom.
Okay. Under D, items related to previous approvals, we have number 2, an application submitted by Carlos Linares, Randall Stahl Architects as agents for North Ocean Capital, 3565B LLC, owner of the property located at 3565 North Ocean Boulevard, Gulfstream, Florida, 32483, legally described as a portion of lots 7 and 8 Gulfstream Ocean tracts, according to the plot recorded in the plat book 16, page 81, and a portion of lots 9 and 10, block B, of blocks A, B, and Z, Palm Beach Shore Acres, according to the plat recorded in plat book 7, page 15, public records of Palm Beach County, and a portion of the right-of-way of Ocean Boulevard abandoned, for the following. We have 4 items. Special exception number 1 to permit an additional 197 square feet of covered unenclosed floor space that exceeds the maximum FAR of 7,129 square feet. B, exception number 2, permit the construction of a 467 square foot gatehouse in the beachfront design district. Item C, North Ocean Boulevard overlay permit to permit the construction of a 467 square foot gatehouse and an 8 foot high stucco wall within the North Ocean Boulevard corridor. And item D, level 3 architectural site plan review 7,326 square feet, and a swimming pool with a spa. Nice.
Okay, and just point out, on the staff report, the applicant, Linares, they have, if you see on the second page, notes regarding the revised plan, you can see all of these items that they have addressed, concerns at the last ARPB meeting. This is very similar to our previous item. They have addressed several, as you can see. This one item is, again, the heights on the second floor, or 20 in the discouragement. But they have addressed several other items.
Mr. Linares, do you have this? So, I mean,
I-
before it outlines.
It's the staff report,
It's the staff report,
and you should have that.
I don't.
Would you like to have, just so
Yes,
you can
please.
outline?
That would be great.
Outline here.
We sent that to you by email. You didn't get it? Did you get the agenda?
No?
Okay.
Maybe the
That's okay.
emails were not working. We've been
We
having
sent
some
it.
issues.
But that's okay, I just wanted you to,
It's okay.
I just wanted you to have an outline for the. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, the 3565 in our previous ARPB meeting, there was a discussion of the entry gate structure to be lowered from the previously proposed tie beam of 11 feet. So we are proposing now to go down to a 9'6" tie beam for the entry gate structure. There was also a discussion of the chimney we had addressed prior on our previous meeting already. So that chimney does fall within the 35-foot height limitation. We have also addressed the tie beam on the second floor from the previous, actually no, I'm sorry. The tie beam on our previous meeting was at 22, I'm sorry, at 23 feet. So that has been kept. There was a single-story roof line that was in the discouraged item that is over the entry door. That roof line has been brought down to meet the 22 feet maximum. I believe that's the maximum
Height.
allowed. So we have brought that down. There was a, let me just go back to my notes, gatehouse entire, I believe those are the items that we did talk about on the previous meeting. And yes, the second floor tie beam is still in the discouraged item. And it is proposed to be at 23 feet. Here, we don't have the master bedroom upstairs, so secondary bedrooms will have the lower ceiling. There was no discussion on windows on this particular project, so I believe that's pretty much it. Yeah, I believe that's about it.
Well, this falls into the same criteria as the last application that we discussed. And it's also heightened, I believe, by the fact that that piece of property goes up a long way increase in any height is going to be amplified from the road, which has already been previously discussed at one of the meetings.
That is correct. The dune here is a bit high from the road. And because of that, we had done a streetscape comparing our home to the adjoining home, which is that 6303, which in fact they fall at the same height. So you may be able to see that streetscape where we are compared to that house as well.
What, I'm sorry, repeat on which house are you comparing?
The house just to the north of us.
Okay, right to the north.
To the north, I believe the address, if I'm not mistaken, is 6303.
Okay, 3603.
36.
36, I'm sorry, 36.
Okay.
And so the streetscape does show a comparison of one house to the other.
Where is that? Am I missing out on where?
It was on the previous submittal.
Previous,
Yeah. This was not revised in our resubmittal. Just because it's more for the overall massing that is meant for.
I think the most, sorry, well, are you still going through the items?
No, I believe I've concluded.
I guess, okay, so I think you hit it on the nose, is the elevation change on this property, which does start very low at the street, and it's flat, and then it certainly goes up as you get to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest impact that this drawing that's on item A300 shows is the impact of the gatehouse on the sight line. I mean, the gatehouse is going to appear larger practically than the rest of the house
Proximity to the road.
because of the proximity to the road. And with that in mind, I think that, and obviously from this side, the eave height will be, in other words, which is measured from the finished floor, will be from this side.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get down here, this little slope up here makes a big difference to the elevation of the wall. So the gatehouse is very important to the entire application. And I think that's first, and we've gotten it lowered.
We've got it.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
You've done two
Yeah.
substantial moves.
Right.
That's
That is
right.
correct.
And what is the finished floor elevation going to be from the road height
To the gate entry gates.
to the gatehouse, the finished floor of the gatehouse?
The Chrono Road is at approximately 7 feet. The entry gate is at 10 feet.
3
10
feet.
So it's 3 feet.
3 feet, okay.
3 feet above the Chrono Road.
So that will give the appearance of about 11 foot.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's about 11 feet from the Chrono Road. That is
Yeah.
correct.
It will be the effect of 11 foot each height.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that is something to take into consideration, but,
But it's in the preferred range, right? The gatehouse.
well, the
So-
gatehouse,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, so,
Exactly.
yeah.
It depends where you
Yes.
measure from, yes.
Okay,
exactly.
right.
That's the position.
Okay.
So, did this go to the, well, I think we all,
I think it's the same situation, it's the elevation of the site, and we're at, what, 23 and a half, or where are we at?
About
23.
23.
6 inches off before we get into preferred, and it's just magnified by that slope, and I'd be inclined to do, we're in the same spot that we were in the other one, Curtis. I haven't I haven't seen the evidence to warrant, especially on this site, because of the elevation to go into the discouraged territory on the E5 on the second floor.
Well, I don't mean to repeat things from the previous project. The house that was found to be at the higher tie beam is the house right to the north.
Right.
So it does, it is within the same height of that home. So massing wise, does not add anything else to our house.
But that home has always had a big element, like a.
And that's very upfront. That's like at the setback almost, that particular house.
Okay, I'll take a
You
closer
know,
look.
this house, the gable end, which is the dominant
Yeah, yeah.
area, is almost 100 feet from our property line back. Because the setback, our setback is 50 feet, which is where the garage is. The garage is a 3-car garage, and then still has an additional 50-something feet back to where the second floor is. So, you know, that is substantial, much further back. You know, so you know, even though our streetscape is a 2-dimensional, which is, you know, it's hard to see how far back it is. You know, the site plan sort of depicts that, how far this mass is. So it's nowhere near the house compared to the house to the
That's a good
north.
point.
And it's, you know, it's not right in your face. There's going to, you know, a lot of landscape. Obviously, you know, this is something that we've talked about, the privacy that we, you know, our clients will need. Probably will hide the whole entire thing. I mean, we've done 2D landscape rendering of it. Obviously, there's still a 2-dimensional drawing, so it still doesn't tell you the full story of what you're going to see from A1A.
Well, I'm not sold on that argument that something built in the past gives validation to something, to a new structure.
No.
I mean, that's just, and especially within keeping to the code as we want to encourage the code to be executed in the future. I mean, that's my personal feeling. It may not be shared by other committee members.
It's just a fact of comparing
I agree.
your mass to our mass, that it does not contradict the existing homes that are there, and even more so that we're talking about, you know, how far back it goes. That is definitely not even what this home that exists to the north of us is doing for us. You know, so it's not that it's that this other home has to set a precedence for us. It's just a comparison massing wise.
But it does set a precedence, because that home that was built as large as it was, is going to, this is, I presume, a spec house, correct? Or is this, are there actual owners of this?
There's actual owners now.
Okay,
It started as a spec.
And so if you are changing the size of this house, then those prospective owners may say, well, now, wait a minute, that other house is gonna loom over us, but that shouldn't have been built in the first place, because that was wrong. So just because that was wrong doesn't mean that you should continue in
That
that
is correct.
wrongness.
That is correct.
So,
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that statement. You know, but like I said, it's just a comparison of mass and
And I understand,
showing that it's not overpowering the other home or any other neighbor for that matter.
I have sympathy to you, but landscaping on the north and south could also, you know, help you obscure that large house that, you know, is to the north. So, and yet still be able to keep you within the code's restrictions.
Well, you know, it's not that, you know, we're not trying to comply with the code. It's obviously, it's stipulated in the code that it could be approved. It's not that it's prohibited. It's not a prohibited item. It's not preferred. But it gives you a little bit of room, a little bit of flexibility for us to be able to give our clients the height that they're wanting, and it is within the code that we're not, prohibited from doing it. It's still, okay, it's not preferred, but it's still able to be approved within the code. I know you're sort of steering away from it now, but the way that it is right now in the code it's not. It's not that way. So, yeah.
I mean, I see your point, and I understand it. It's, but I don't feel it's the direction that the commission is, that the review board is going in.
Okay.
For me, it's the design, and that's
Yeah.
that's the bottom line. That's why we're sitting here. Is interfacing between you and
Correct.
the design manual. Well, certainly addressing the gatehouse was a big piece of this whole thing. We're
Yes.
still going to have
Yes.
the appearance of an 11-foot wall, and then and these very large and this large. The gatehouse is really going to be a massive item in the overall scheme of things. Is there anything? The one thing that we did encourage, well, I have to say the one thing that I think was encouraged in previous discussion about this house was the gable, which the side gable ends, which certainly by having this side ends not be hip roofs, it certainly gives a lot more massing to the house, and I think in the first meeting we discussed maybe changing the gable ends on the sides, on the north and south elevations, to hip roofs, which would reduce the massing of the house. But we've kept with the gable ends, which is certainly within your purview. Is there anything? The only thing I can think of is that, if you want to go forward to the town commission again, without without my vote, unfortunately, is do something. Really, the most dominant element are the gatehouse, when you're in line with the gatehouse, and then B, the garage, the bedroom number 3, that extends out well to the east.
Mm-hmm.
That is the next highest point that you see, right there.
Yes, yes.
So, I would say that the only thing, that's going to be, the next thing that you see is that bedroom number 3 extending to the west. Is there anything you think you can do with the eave height on that element, or on that portion of the house?
Well, again, it's the gable ends. It was a feature that we wanted to maintain for this architecture, and it's well. It's not a great deal of structure. I think that to me, looking at the streetscape or the site section per se, it's so far back that it's not even going to feel like a big mass. I mean, it's only one pod of the gable, you know, and the second floor is so small compared to the rest of the second floor that it's not to me, it doesn't feel like that is a dominant structure at all. So I don't think that is going to be seen that way. You know, I know you mentioned that the gate is sort of 11 feet is what it's going to feel like. You know, the 9'6" is only 18 inches above our wall, so it's going to definitely blend in with our wall. Also keep in mind that it's going to be, you know, a beautiful landscape in front of that wall as well. So, you know, not the whole entire 8 feet is going to be exposed of the wall. These are small peaks, you know. It's not like it's you know, perpendicular to your eye, so to speak. It's just a peak on the gable that you're going to see, I think. That is not going to be a dominant structure. So I think it should be fine, and I would like to try to maintain, if possible, those heights.
I think that's a very big argument in your favor. The second story area being much smaller than the first story area. That certainly is ameliorating to the overall plan. In other words, we don't have a massive, you know, second story that goes all the way out to the end.
Right.
And it just is my feeling that the bedroom number 3, if it was reduced to the preferred range, would minimize the impact of the structure on the from the street view. But that's just my opinion.
Well,
Yes,
I'm a
sir.
little confused. I think they did address the height of the one-story section, but the two-story is in preferred.
Yes, that's right.
So they did take care of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that has been
Yeah,
addressed.
okay, fine.
This line right there.
Which is the one that hasn't, that one.
And this was reduced, but it's still, this one is 6 inches.
6 inches above the discouraged.
During the discouraged, yes. So, and the gatehouse has been brought down.
Down, yeah. Well, I think the only thing I have a problem with is the 6 inches on the E-line. Being out of preferred range,
You know,
especially on an elevated site.
yeah, and not to mention the fact that the view from the beach, looking up at that house, being as high as it is, you know, adding another 6 inches here or there is going to, you know, make it look like a bigger house from the beach.
Well, the second floor doesn't go fully to the extent of the setback either. So it's, you know, centered within the property, very centralized. So it's
I've got no real complaint with the design of the house, the architecture of the house. I just, my only reservation is the fact that it exceeds what is in the code.
the preferred.
And in the preferred code. And since we are making a concerted effort to get architects and builders and, you know, to act within the code reservations, and moving things from the discouraged area into the prohibited area, you know, I just think it's, you know, letting something else slide through that perhaps we shouldn't, at least I feel we shouldn't. and I realize it's only 6 inches.
Right. Well, you know, again, it is within the code, and now I understand what the board is trying to do. But you know, to our knowledge, it was still within the code. It was
Right.
discouraged, but it's still within the code.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still an acceptable height. You know, not a prohibited.
No,
But in order for us to approve a discouraged item, you have to show finding of evidence that meets the 5 standards. And we haven't, your letter attempts to address it, but we've found that it doesn't fully address it. And that staff makes that comment, that it's insufficient to meet that standard, to meet the 5, so I'm inclined to go along with that. So if you have a discouraged element, you have to kind of show us how the 5 standards, and I didn't see enough evidence in the letter, and neither did staff. So what should we do? Because I do have to leave pretty soon.
Yeah, but there's only one thing I would say just about this particular application and the way the house has been designed, is that it does have a reduced second story floor area. It is more centrally located, which makes it goes great. In other words, where the house sits reduces the eave height, you know, the appearance of overall massing. So those are the 2 really strong things about this design, as you pointed out, that it is where it's located further back from the road, and that the second story structure is relatively small. We can't approve it, or, well, I can't approve it, but if you go to the town commission, I would point those things out as being 2 reasons to allow the 6 inches of additional eave height. And
Okay, well, I think for you today, you would have to, I mean,
but based on our
consider
findings-
all of the motions that you would need to make, and either, on the eve height, if you're leaning towards recommending approval because of the conversation that we've had, you know, and other elements to it that would make it less obvious, I guess, then the board would either need to make a positive recommendation on that eve height based on the conversation that we've had, or handle it like we did on the last one, that he would make his argument before the town commission. Correct?
I think we can make it a denial at our
Okay.
level. I mean, if that's what we vote. That's what we vote to do.
Okay.
And give them a further opportunity
But the,
to go to the
But the commission can approve it, and I think we have some strong arguments for
Okay.
the additional 6 inches
So I think you would make the same kind of motions that you did on the previous.
on the previous application. Okay.
So
I can't make any motion.
I'll attempt to make a motion to approve the first couple of ones. Okay. Motion to recommend approval of a special exception to allow 197 square feet covered unenclosed area that exceeds the maximum permitted FAR.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Mr. Roche? Chairman? Yes.
Motion to recommend approval of a special exception to allow the construction of a 467 square foot gatehouse in the beachfront design district.
Oh, second.
Yes.
Oh, second.
Oh, second.
Yes, and,
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Mr. Roche? Chairman Kent?
Motion to recommend approval to allow the construction of a 467 square foot gatehouse and an 8-foot high stucco wall within the North Ocean Boulevard corridor.
Second.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Chairman Kent?
Aye.
Okay, so motion to recommend from the ARPB, a level 3 architectural site plan, based on the finding that in order for discouraged items to be approved, an applicant must show that the town must find that the proposed item is not inconsistent with certain goals. Staff and this board does not believe the April 3rd, 2018 letter is sufficient to meet this requirement. However, applicant shall have the right to go to the town commission meeting and present further findings and/or evidence to refute our finding and to see what the town commission arrives at in their vote.
Second.
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Chairman Kent.
Aye. Sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't do the landscaping, did we?
Did we do the landscape?
Should we? You've seen it twice before.
Yeah, we said, yeah.
Okay, you wanna go with that then?
Yes.
We haven't, yeah, we just responded to that. We've changed
Okay. Mr. Lenars, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so
We
much.
understand you've had a busy day. What's next? More breakfast this evening. Item 7, items to the town commission, which is consider reducing the allowable FAR. I think that the town commission wants us to review ways of further reducing the FAR within the town. I'll just say that my feelings are that it's really a question more of reducing the envelope. In other words, if we want to reduce the appearance and the massing of the houses within the town, it's two things. It's distance, how far away something's viewed, in other words, and then how high it is. Height. And we've addressed height by going to the preferred range on the eaves. The second item is we just have to make the envelope smaller to get the houses back further from the neighbors, the people looking at the house from the street.
So you're talking about setback,
Setbacks,
making
yeah.
setbacks.
I think that's the only
more
way you can do it. I mean, right now we're
I mean, you can change FAR just a couple of points, 33 down to 30, things like that. It's, we look at it, that's just pure math.
33%, there's 10%, 15% of the, 25% really above that. But anyway, that's an item that the town commission is gonna want at the board.
How many, if I could add, how many different FAR standards? Are there 5 separate ones in the 5 districts? I know it's in the,
Well, they're all computed with the same formula.
okay, the down form, the same one we decided, okay, fine, okay. Oh, even, okay,
Yeah, 33% of the first 10,000, and then 25%.
First 20,000.
First 20,000.
20,000.
First 20,000, and then 25%
of thereafter, okay,
thereacter.
okay.
And it's the same for all 5 districts.
Yeah, that itself might
So we
have to be
could,
revised, because, Core tends to do smaller lots than the ocean front.
so we would discuss that at a later point in time and come to a more moderate percentage of the.
They're asking us to look into it
Yeah.
and to discuss it. And
Yeah,
that-
I think
That's
we
what
should.
Sheila's just bringing up. I think we don't have enough, I need to
Right,
postpone it to the next meeting.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, no, that's not something, but this is something to consider. No, very nice, I came to the town commission meeting last time, and
Yes.
presentation on moving the discouraged items into the prohibited range, and just had a very nice time.
There was some
That was a
confusion
big thing.
on the shutters. I was a little, didn't it seem like people were a little confused on the
Same
shutters?
colors.
Same color shutters. Well, or Mrs. Jones said, and I do agree that, there are certainly in today's design world that having the same color shutters on a house is the primary color of the house, is something that's,
Did we mandate that?
we we recommended it.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
Because there are a lot of, I'm looking straight across the, White House with black shutters.
Oh, you can have that stuff,
Oh,
but it's just, you can't have, before you weren't allowed to have the same, you couldn't have white shutters in the White House.
White
And
shutters.
okay,
white
that's
house.
what so we just said you can have them with the same color. Okay.
Exactly,
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
Exactly.
That is, yeah. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
That's-
I was confused. No one else was.
That's, okay.
Well, there's a possibility that, if you're trying to follow the architecture in everything that you do, some architecture might, sort of mandate that the shutters be in a contraption body of the house. So I think it's Bermuda, I'm not sure without looking again. But,
And, but
that's
we're,
not to say then you would have to change that section of the code as well. But that wouldn't be continuing with the architectural style that you were trying to follow.
I believe it was discouraged to have the shutters the same color as the house, and instead of moving that into preferred, you just eliminated that language altogether, because it wouldn't make any
Gotcha.
sense
Gotcha.
to put that in preferred. You wouldn't prefer to have them the same color,
Right.
you just want to say you can do it if you can, but it's not preferred or discouraged or
Perfect.
I think that's what.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you,
Yes,
Frank.
that's-
You know, the building right over there is sort of an off-white with white shutters. Now,
Mhm.
is that, would that in fact comply because it is, I don't know if you can see it from where you are, Greg, but I'm looking out the window and I can see it from here. But it is white shutters with sort of an off-white building. Is that, that would be okay, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, since it is off-white, it's not the same color. Yeah. Okay.
And it is contrasting.
Yeah, as long as there's contrast is really what we're saying.
No, we are also saying you can have them the same color. We are allowing.
Oh, allowing them.
Allowing to be
Okay,
tan paint with tan shutters,
okay,
if that's what you'd like to do.
okay.
Yeah, that was like, I think that's what I'm hearing. And you certainly can have contrasting, because that is the Bermuda look, the contrasting shutter color. I think we're okay there.
Until somebody.
So FAR was something that the town commission asked, another homework assignment from the town commission?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
All right. To be continued.
Okay. Any items by staff? No, you haven't already. Items by board members?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you for your service, Beulah. Thank you.
Anything to say? Oh,
Thank you
thank you
for
so
your
much for
service.
all your support.
Oh,
My goodness gracious.
thank you,
I
thank
can't
you.
tell you.
You're gonna
It's
be
your-
sorely missed.
That's
Sorely
thank
missed.
you.
We will flail around without you.
Listen, sitting here is you're relying on everybody else. And then move to adjourn.
I make
Thank
a
you all
motion.
very much.
Okay, okay.
Okay.